James Hacker, how do OT8s practice Scientology? What are they supposed to do when they reach the top of the bridge and there are no more courses to take? Just keep auditing for the rest of their lives? Thanks for the question, James. And actually, it's the other way around. You asked, are they supposed to keep doing courses for the rest of their, or are they supposed to keep auditing because there's no more courses to take? It's actually the other way around. There are tons of courses and classes that OT8s can take and get trained in Scientology because they can't get a whole lot more auditing. Now, it's not true that there is no more auditing they can do, though. So let's take a look at somebody who gets to the top of Scientology's bridge as it currently stands. Now, according to the materials of the Church of Scientology, there are levels, confidential levels of spiritual awareness and ability to be had all the way up to OT, or Operating Thetan, level 15. Okay, OT stands for Operating Thetan. So, and an Operating Thetan, of course, is a spiritual entity who is operating, who knows what he's doing, is a cause over his existence and life, and the OT levels are supposed to produce that. So OT8's about halfway up the line, and that's as far as you can go in Scientology, and it costs, well over, probably for your average Scientologist, certainly no less than $750,000 to $1 million, probably more. By the time they have gotten to that level. Because it's not just a matter in Scientology of strictly paying just for the services that you're doing, but there's so many other opportunities for them to extract money from you, and they take advantage of every single one of those opportunities. So you're probably going to be given over a lot more money than just for the auditing hours or the classwork that you're doing. All right, so let's say you get to the top. You don't have any more Scientology bridge steps to do until they release the next levels. What you're told at that level, and at all levels of Scientology, what people are told is that the reason OT8 is the highest level is because the planet is in such bad shape that it's not ready for OT9 and 10, and that we, Scientology, collectively has to make certain things happen in the real world in order to make the world a safe place for OT9 and 10 to be released. And now this goes all the way back to the early 90s. I remember they were starting to talk about this stuff because OT8 was released in 1988, if I remember right. And that is, and so this was just a few years after there had been, a few hundred, maybe 1,000 people who had gotten up through OT8 at that point. And, they were like, hey, what's next? What do we do? What are we supposed to do? What's going on? How do we keep going? What about 9 and 10 and the rest of the OT levels? And they were told, hey, man, no, you got to get trained as an auditor. You have to be a highly trained auditor. And then they were told all the organizations in the world, all the Scientology churches need to be raised up to St. Hill size, meaning they have to be viable. They have to be big, expansive, growing organizations, not these little pipsqueak folding chair, crooked table operations with ratty carpet that have 20 people showing up. That's not the image of Scientology that is acceptable anymore. And so Miscavige kind of started putting down the line that we needed to grow these orgs. And by the 2000s, he had come up with the ideal org strategy, which I'm telling you all this because it fits into the answer to this question, because the OT8s were basically given the responsibility in the 2000s when the ideal org strategy came out, that they were the ones who were supposed to basically make it happen. They needed to exert their OT muscles in order to get the money together to buy the new buildings and get the money together to renovate those buildings. And they were supposed to do this for their local org area because every OT8 came from somewhere. And you can't do OT8 at your local city level Scientology church. You have to go to the ship to do it. And you can't do the OT levels at all at your local organization. You have to go to an advanced organization in Los Angeles or St. Hill or Sydney, Australia, or Copenhagen, or the big one in Clearwater, Florida. So you have to travel to one of those places to do the OT levels. And to get to the top of the OT levels, eventually all roads lead to Flag and then to the ship for OT8. So You are told, though, that your responsibility as an OT8 is to now go back to your local org. Maybe you come from Detroit or Denver, and your job is to get that place ideal. And this was the big game of the 2000s, is let's get these orgs up to ideal. And OT committees were sort of activated, and the local OTs were kind of given targets and jobs. And right from Miscavige on the ship, he said to them, you guys are the ones who are going to make this happen. You know, the Sea Org can push and pull and order and yell and scream, but if you guys aren't there making these orgs make it and taking responsibility for your local org, then we're not going to pull this off, and you guys need to be part of the solution to this problem. You can't just sit on the sidelines. You can't just be idle OTs. That's not an OT. An OT is somebody who's operating, who's making things happen. So this was sort of put to them as their test. Even it wasn't couched in those exact words, but the concept was sort of there. You guys need to make this happen. And so this is why so many top-level Scientologists got really on board, really in everybody's business. This is where some of the Facebook police come from, by the way. I mean, some of these OTs get very busybody about, helping their local area, quote unquote. But the main thing they were supposed to do was fundraise. All right. And that should, of course, tell you, goes all the way back to my basic premise of Scientology, that it is a money-making scam disguised as a religion, disguised as a self-help group, right? So it really always comes back to the money. And they want those OT8s out there not just giving money themselves, you understand? They want them out there procuring money, talking at fundraisers, going out and doing sales, jobs, basically, fundraising activities to get the org to buy the new building that they need and then to get it renovated. And they were all given this task for their local area, and then some of them pulled it off. Some of them got their local org ideal. You have Las Vegas, Twin Cities, LA org, all these different ideal organizations. Now what are they supposed to do? Because it's like, okay, well, we need all of them to get to this level in order to release the OT 9 and 10. I mean, they think that Miscavige has it, that OT 9 and 10 is a done deal, that it's sitting in a folder, ready to go. And they've even been told that there are Sea Org members who are trained on this material or who are starting to get trained on this material. This comes and goes as messaging over the years. We see this come up every now and again, maybe about every 5 years or so. I mean, I'm guesstimating there, but about every 5 years or so, there's some sudden news about OT 9 and 10, which really, after all the song and dance and smoke and mirrors, really comes down to, you guys need to make us more money. And you need to do that by getting these organizations all raised up to ideal status. So they think OT 9 and 10 are real, and that Miscavige can't release them until these orgs get up to ideal and get up to St. Hill size. And that's basically what they're told. Now, as far as personally, they are also told that they need to train. They need to do auditor training. And there are other auditing actions that they can do, even as OT8s, that are lower on the bridge, but are not really on the bridge. They're sort of things you can do that are auditing actions that you can do anywhere on the bridge or almost anywhere on the bridge, such as the false purpose rundown, going in and rooting out your evil intentions, as I've gone over in detail when I talked about the RPF. That kind of auditing, the evil intention derooting, you could say, that's not just on the RPF. That people pay for that auditing. I mean, we did it on each other in the RPF, but there are people who pay for that shit. So that is a kind of auditing you can get. You can also do the most expensive auditing in Scientology. It is called the L rundowns. L stands for list. There are 3 of them. There's L10, L11, and L12. These are only delivered at Flag in Florida. They cost like $10,000 per 12 and a half hours of auditing. And you can go to Flag and do those, and those are supposed to supercharge you as a being. They're supposed to, like, do all these wonderful things to you, including getting you into a permanent state of exterior from your body, able to control your body while being exterior to it. Yeah, they actually do have that out there, but it's super expensive. Then you have a few other services. You have Superpower. That's delivered in Florida as well, in that great big building. And you have the Cause Resurgence Rundown, which is running around a pole for hours at a time. People pay for that in Scientology. So there are these services that OT8s can also do, but mainly they are encouraged to train. They got to get indoctrinated even harder in L. Ron Hubbard's fantastical worldview and how to go about helping other people with Scientology auditing. So those are the things that OT8s basically are presented with. And there you go. I hope that answers your question.